Hey guys, I just want to start off this video by saying a massive thank you to my first patron, Lucas. You are a legend, mate. With that out of the way, let's get to the subject at hand. If you were told to tell me the best F1 team ever, you'd probably say something like Williams or Mercedes, right? Well, what if you had to find the worst? I think I've found the answer. You see, to start a Formula 1 team, you need a heap of cash, the best engineers in the business, and a whole host of other important things such as drivers and a car. Super Aguri had some of those things. For the drivers, they insisted on having an all-Japanese lineup. The first part was easy, as Takuma Sato had only just lost his seat with British American Racing. The second seat wasn't as simple. You see, there was only one Japanese F1 driver in 2005, so Super Aguri were out of hope for their all-Japanese dream. But then, it dawned on them. Sakon Yamamoto. But that didn't happen, so instead they opted for Yuji Ide. Aguri Suzuki had apparently known Ide for a long time, and you'd think that this would have put him off. However, the team was desperate. Now, if you aren't familiar with this prodigy, then let me fill you in quickly. Yuji Ide was obviously a Japanese racing driver who'd endured some success, but he was hardly F1 worthy, and as you're about to see, that became apparent almost immediately. Having acquired the drivers, Super Aguri just needed some cars for them to drive, and again, this presented itself as a bit of a problem, because F1 cars are expensive, and it seemed like this thought had escaped Aguri Suzuki's mind when founding his F1 team. Yet again though, Suzuki's genius shone through, and he settled on a pair of chassis he managed to buy from ex-Minardi team principal Paul Stoddart. But hey, many F1 giants start off like this, like Andrea Moda and Life Racing Engines. However, these teams ran chassis from the previous year. Super Aguri, on the other hand, opted to use an Arrows chassis from 2002. For those of you who haven't heard of the joke team which is Arrows, here's the basics. They were labelled as one of the best teams never to win a Grand Prix. Couple that with the fact that the chassis was from 2002, the team was in for a bit of a rough time. With the drivers and cars sorted, all Suzuki needed now was a factory. So they got the cheapest one possible, the old Arrows plant. I mean look, the factory had all the facilities the team needed to make suboptimal race cars, and there was a nice circularity to this, with Arrows cars being made in the Arrows factory. With all that sorted, all that was left was to get racing. Problems arose early for the team, as Yuji Ide hadn't really been able to get a good grasp on the English language, and so was largely unable to communicate with his engineers. No matter though, and the team debuted their all-old car at the preseason test in Barcelona. Despite limited running in both preseason tests, Super Aguri headed off to Bahrain for the season opener after just 4 months of preparation. To the surprise of nobody, both cars qualified bottom of the pack, with Ide almost 9 seconds off Michael Schumacher's pole time. The race was equally disastrous, with Ide retiring on lap 53 out of 57 with an engine failure, and Takuma Sato finishing last, 4 laps down from the leader. The next round in Malaysia was just as hopeless, with both cars locking out the back row of the grid and failing to score points. The following round was, in the eyes of Yuji Ide, a success, with him being quoted saying, "This is the first time that both Taku and I have finished a race, so I'm happy about that." Now, I don't want to call it a curse or anything, but the next race ended with a double DNF for the team, with Ide clashing with Christian Albers, which sent the Midland car out of the race. Ide later retired with a suspension failure in the race, and Takuma Sato crashed out too on lap 44. By this point, the FIA had had enough of Ide and revoked his super license, which meant that Super Aguri had to find another driver fast. The team then had a brief stint with Frank Montagny, where he failed to score a point, languished at the back of the grid, and DNF'd more often than not. At this point, Aguri Suzuki realised that Frank Montagny was not very Japanese, so he was replaced by Sakon Yamamoto, who should have been at the team all along. Yamamoto began his season with 4 consecutive DNF, and then a further 3 races where he failed to score a point. The only real notable thing that happened in his 7-race stint was the disqualification of his teammate Sato for ignoring blue flags at the Chinese Grand Prix. Yamamoto was then fired from the team, and by this point Super Aguri had exhausted their supply of Japanese drivers, so they instead opted to run not very Japanese Anthony Davidson in their second car alongside Takuma Sato. The following season began with Super Aguri getting their hands on the Honda chassis for that year, which was met with about as much approval as allowing a registered sex offender to work in a school. Despite the illegally good chassis, Super Aguri only managed to pick up 4 points over the course of the season, but this was an improvement from their previous season's tally of 0. The next year, in 2008, the team got off to their usual start, followed by a 2-race streak of non-points paying positions. The 4th round in Spain was the final nail in the coffin for Super Aguri, and on the 6th of May 2008, Aguri Suzuki announced that the team was withdrawing from F1 due to financial problems. So, were Super Aguri the worst Formula 1 team ever? Probably not, but they were pretty damn close. Anyway, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, then of course consider subscribing for more like this. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Smoking that dope from Edmond. We the new meth in Redmond. We ain't real blood, but we brethren. Run up a check and it's pending. She talking my news, we'll send them. Fuck with the fam, you a dead man. Jesus, peace on my pendant. And we still independent. ISO, yeah, we trending. Watch what you say, don't offend them. They keeping it real, they commend them. People